Okay, yet again, ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you to this edition of the Community Show webinar, this weekly show that tries to pick out the voices within the community and give us their perspective on issues of national importance. Today, we have so far two very brilliant ladies. We have Aromorach Fancy, Sheila, and we have Joyce Adikini. But we hope we'll be joined by a gentleman along the way, and his name is Kakuru. He's the executive director of Kick Corruption out of Chigezi. The short for Kick Corruption out of Chigezi is actually Kick, K-I-C-K. Interesting. So we are going to have a conversation today, and we are going to be looking at the war on terror. We've had a terror threat in the last few weeks. We've seen, in fact, cases linked with terrorism, explosions and things of the like. So that we are going to have a conversation on that. And also we are going to look at the proposed change bail reforms. The government is pushing for some reforms that should see that bail becomes harder to get for persons charged with certain capital offenses. So we'll have those two discussions today, and we hope that we're going to have a very good and engaging discussion. We thank you very much, the viewers that continuously watch this show. We know that you take in your time and spare effort to be with us, and we are very appreciative. For those that are joining us for the first time, I'll say from the beginning up to the end, please endeavor to subscribe to this channel and turn on your notification that you're always notified when videos are live or have been uploaded, so you don't miss out on the discussion. So without further ado, I'm going to ask Sheila to begin by introducing herself in detail, tell us who she is, where she's joining us from, and then we can have the same from Joyce. Joyce still has a problem with the microphone. I hope that will be rectified in the due course, and then we continue with the conversation. So over to you, Sheila.
Thank you so much, Godwin. Hello, viewers. My name is Aromorach Fancy Sheila, and I am a gender activist, a student of law, and I'm joining in from Chiwatule. Glad to be a part of the conversation today.
Thank you, Sheila. Let's now, hopefully Joyce has sorted the microphone issue. So can we now hear from Joyce and a brief introduction, Joyce? Adikini, Joyce, do you hear us? You may have to mute and then try to introduce yourself and see if the microphone is okay.
Yes, good morning.
Morning.
I hope you can hear me. Sorry, my network has been unstable, so I was trying to change my location so that I can get some clear network. My name is Joyce Adikini. I'm a member of the Forum for Democratic Change and a human rights activist and an activist for change. Thank you. I'm grateful for this show, and I look forward to interacting with you all.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. So let's begin by discussing the bail reforms, and then we shall finish with the terror threats. So I want to start with you, Joyce. Picking it up from where we just stopped. You're a member of the F.D.C, that opposition party, and we know that F.D.C has already expressed its position, which is in total disagreement with the government's position on denying bail to suspects of certain capital offenses. So at an individual level, I know the party has denied, has said this won't work, but at an individual level, what is your perception? What is your view on the government's proposal?
Yes, thank you very much. Just like my party submitted, my view on the issue of bail is that the government is trying to use people's rights as a tool of patronage, and that is not correct. Because when you look at it all over the world, every country is discussing how to even make bail much easier. I see that in the US, it has been, the discussion has been around abolishing cash bail to make sure that even those who do not have the cash provisions can still get bail. So we cannot, as a country, start moving backward and then go where others that are running away from. And of course, the framers of our constitution looked forward. They respected the rights of every individual. They had all the good intentions for this country, and that is why the bail provision, of course, live at the mercy of your accuser. That when your accuser, like, let me give an example. Today I decide and I say, Godwin, you killed my brother, or you killed so and so, and you're taken inside and you stay there until the case is disposed of. With the kind of judiciary that we have in our country, that is extremely dangerous, because cases take long. That we have very poor investigation systems. So you find that someone, and we already have hundreds of people, thousands of people rotting in prison because their cases have not been investigated. Even the accusers lost interest, but no one is following up on these cases. So we cannot go on and the bad situation worse. Okay. The other thing that I clearly see here is that one individual is trying to make himself the law. Yeah, so what I was saying is, what is clear here is that one individual is trying to make himself the law, and he wants to use the law as a weapon of oppressing the entire country. That when he feels like he wants to get the power of giving bail. When you are arrested on murder, him to say, okay, now Godwin, I have forgiven you. Let Godwin be given bail. Like he wants it to become a presidential directive and not a right. So that is basically using the law as a weapon of patronage, and it is not in the good spirit for this country. As young people, we don't even need to sit in a table that is trying to discuss whether or not we should have bail. What we need to discuss is how easy it should be to get bail, and how quick the law enforcement authorities, that is the police and the judiciary, should work in regards to bringing evidence, so that those who are indeed accused of murder and are guilty can be charged, instead of insisting that no one should get bail. Because why in the first place should someone who has murdered be kept in prison without conviction? There should be a conviction, instead of keeping people without any conviction and then you want them to serve on remand forever. So for me, that is my submission.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's now get Sheila's view on the same issue. Sheila, what is your view on the issue of bail and the government's proposal to amend this provision of the Constitution and make it harder for people to have bail, especially those accused of certain capital offenses?
Thank you, Godwin, and I want to thank Joyce for that. And I want to say this particular reform that is being proposed by government is going to be another pain for us to go through 5 years or 10 years from now. Just the way we have been with projects that haven't been reviewed before, projects or laws that have come into place, and the practice of those particular laws and projects are not effective because there is lack of review of what's existent at the moment. So if government is saying there is need for us to say there is no bail, you cannot grant bail to a capital offender, then I think government has failed to actually review what's needed. And for me, I feel what should actually conversation government should be having, or whoever ideally wants to have what doesn't want to grant bail, should be a conversation around what are the failures in granting bail right now. Are people actually upholding? Is there a problem when people are granted bail? What is happening? Not granting people bail because you assume there's going to be mob justice after when they go back into their villages, or they will fail to turn up for the court sessions or things like that. I really think at the end of the day, that whole conversation remains a fallacy, because if we are saying we're not granting people bail at this point, then are we actually being considerate of the prison conditions that those who we believe have been denied bail at the moment are actually going through, and their families are also going through the same because they were not granted bail and they're being tortured in those prison cells? Is our prison system of handling or taking care of all those many prisoners who will be denied bail 3 years from now or a few months from now, for those 6 months that government is so proposing. And I feel at the end of the day, as a country, we are totally failing in terms of rule of law, because if we are saying if we are saying we need an independent judiciary, and the government states that the granting of bail is to actually reduce the powers of the judiciary, then that's a loud call to us to know that as lawyers or as human rights defenders, we are being our space is being narrowed actually the more because of these particular elements that are being created. So I really think government should actually not, I mean, we haven't reached that level, and I don't think that's the level any other country is actually wanting to take. As Joyce stated, countries are looking forward to helping the conversation on bail or granting bail actually made simpler. So as a country, we cannot decide to take a different route, which as a country we cannot handle. We know we actually cannot handle. This is simply a 1 month's idea that we cannot all just hopelessly go for. So what we need to call for, or what government needs to be looking towards, is if someone is granted bail, what is the problem? Why have they always failed to actually appear? If there is any that has failed to appear for their sessions, or what causes the mob justice? Is it the idea that this person has been pinned as a guilty person, and that's why people actually want to hurt them or to deny them their residential capacity? So I think that should be what government should be looking at, and not rather total denial of bail to an accused person. Yeah.
Sheila, when you make such a submission, do you bear in mind the fact that government is saying, hey, we need to fight crime? You were a lady and a feminist. You know how many women were killed in Entebbe a few years back. You know that we've just had this catastrophe, the unfortunate killing of so many elderly people in Masaka. You know how many women get raped in this country every year. You know how many women get killed in this country every year. You see that there's a resurfacing of the threat of terrorism, and the first victim in this new resurface happened to be a woman. So isn't it upon feminists like you to support such a proposal? Doesn't it behoove you to do just that? For the reason that you see it's going to protect women, it's going to protect mothers, it's going to ensure that there's less murders, it's going to ensure that terrorism is dealt with, because government is saying, hey, we respect your freedom, but what of the freedom of the person that you've killed? We know you should have bail. We respect your life, but we also want to ensure that this country is safe, the greater good for the greatest majority. So if Toko is a killer, lock him away, ensure that he doesn't get bail, but make sure that Sheila is safe, make sure that Joyce is safe. So what do you make of that argument put forward by the?
So I would say that unless we miss the particular concept that is useful from government, I would want to stick to saying what government is laying before us doesn't, at the end of the day, actually help us solve crime immediately. And that is why, from a feminist perspective, I would still say there is this first option that we need to use, because you're not going to throw this whole bunch of idea of denial of bail for anyone, for an accused person onto Ugandans, and expect for us to actually believe and go through that when we actually know of what's happening in the prison cells, what's happening when the whole justice system. And that is why a feminist like me would say, let us take this route first, and then if need be, we can get to that level, which I don't think we shall get to if we actually take this route and have a review of the stance of bail at the moment, the practice of someone being granted bail, or maybe right now, what the judicial system would need, or whoever is really responsible would say, if you are going to be granted bail, you are going to, in your pocket, you will have a security person in your presence, staying watch over you, things like that. So I would say not granting bail is not the immediate response to stopping all these, to reducing the rape cases that we have every day upon young women, or like many killings that keep happening in the far end areas or in our community, really. I think there is a much faster option to actually ending crime. And I think that's the option that we need to take at the moment.
Okay, let's get Joyce's view on that. Joyce, the same thing. The government is putting forward what seems a very solid argument. They are saying even if you're of the F.D.C, you have a right to life, and we don't want people to kill you simply because you're of the F.D.C. So if you sense that someone is a killer, we want to lock them away and deny them the right to bail. But if you follow some of these habitual criminals, they'll kill now, get bail, come out, kill again, get bail, come back, kill again, or rape, come back, rape again. So that cycle, that vicious cycle of causing anarchy, causing disgrace and trouble in people's lives is what the government is saying, hey, we want to break that, end it, and ensure that the rest of you live in the best of tranquility out there. So don't you support the government in this regard? I know you're F.D.C, but where we could say that for once you agree with the government on something that they're saying.
Actually, the assumption should first leave the party aside. I am just me, Joyce, for now, and a human with rights who also wants others to have the same. So that blanket assumption is actually passing a judgment to a suspect. That because I am suspected, you're convicted that I am convicted, and therefore I don't deserve to be given bail. And the law is clear that you are not guilty until you are convicted. You're innocent until the law confirms that you have committed a crime. Now, you cannot make an assumption that the accused is convicted from day one. Then secondly, already it is very clear when you present a bail case in court, the court decides when to give and when not to give bail. There are circumstances. They evaluate it on case-to-case basis because it is already as obvious as that. But there are some people who could be potentially dangerous, and on understanding of the law and the community, sometimes it is also on the danger is on them. You may fail to give them bail. It is already there in the law. There is nothing that needs to be added or removed. That law is already there and it has been working. There are people who have been denied bail several times or for some time until the court determined that they should get. So why should we now start discussing it in a manner of denial? Then secondly, thirdly, to that matter, the other assumption we are making is that the law enforcement has been arresting the right people. Where are the murderers of Entebbe? Where are the murderers of Masaka? Who are they? Are they the right people? Haven't we been seeing innocent people being framed on charges that they have not committed? Are we convinced, for example, that the two members of parliament who are in prison right now were the ones murdering people in Masaka? Are we convinced about that? Because ideally, that is how far it is going to go. And before you know it, the whole country will be locked up. Whoever is against someone is going to be locked up and called the murderer. And the person knows very well how to psychologically play on our mind. The system has been trained in a way that they first provoke your emotions and then appear to be giving you a solution. They come rape you around, kill you, and 2 years later, there is no evidence of the person who was killing you. There is no evidence of who was arrested for that. The security agencies are all accusing each other. You get bomb scares, and then another security agency investigates and finds the other one guilty. Then innocent people are all ramped up and taken to prison for that. We've seen that happen. And
Joyce, if I may interrupt.
Pardon?
If I may interrupt.
Yes.
You're talking of the Masaka murders. You're talking of the Entebbe murders. Yes, that is a drop in the ocean. There are possibly murders where the police will never show you the killers, but there's so many murders where the police can indeed show you the killers. We have seen some very interesting cases. There was a young lady who was killed, a student of Makerere called Chirabo. And we know that the prime suspect in that case, I'm not saying he's guilty, I'm just saying he's the prime suspect, asked for bail on such a ground as I want to go and continue my education. So let's say if he is indeed guilty, I mean, this would be a case of someone killing someone's daughter. The daughter is buried, the family is grieving, but for him, he uses bail to even first go and further his education. How sad, how absurd is that? So the massacre murders aside, the MPs aside, in the real cases, there are real cases out here where people murder. I'm not saying that because they murder, they are known, of course, they'll be known as suspects. I know that for a fact as a lawyer. But whether there is cogent evidence, whether there is insurmountable evidence pointing to someone, why should such a person get bail? And if you know, if such is the case, would you then change your view and say, okay, maybe in that particular case, that person doesn't deserve bail?
And that is why I started by saying that there is already that provision in the law. Godwin, you know very well that there are people who have never got bail because the court did not find them deserving. Jamil Mukulu didn't get bail. What reason did the court use to give? They're quoting the Constitution. So that if you are really, let me say you were caught on action, killing somebody, and there are several other things that constitutionally lead you towards not qualifying for bail according to the current constitution. They don't give it to you; it is already there. We don't have to discuss that. Okay, now what happens when you're a prime suspect, like the example you have given of the gentleman, and then the president pardons you, because that is what the current amendment is trying to make. There are so many murderers who have also been pardoned in the same way, and they are serving us as ministers and other several government agencies, because the custodians of the law took it upon themselves to pardon them. And that is where we have to run away from. We have to have a strong justice system that is conducting things the right way and giving everyone what they deserve. Not a system which is being run in the pockets of one person. So that provision is already there. The court has already been referring to it whenever it is granting and denying bail. It is not true that when the moment you appear into their bail papers, they just give it to you. It is not true. And I'm glad you've said you're a lawyer. I'm sure you know that.
I don't know that for a fact.
I have not heard you.
I'm saying I do know that for a fact, that bail isn't just given. You must prove it. You must bring sureties. There are certain grounds and all that. That I know. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So now let's turn back to Sheila. Sheila, are you still there?
Yes, I am.
Okay. So as we wrap up on the issue around bail, I want you to just mention for us: is there any one particular case where you think someone shouldn't deserve bail? Okay. Yes, there are all these good things. Bail is good and all that, but maybe in your mind, there's just one particular case that you think, this one, no, there shouldn't be bail for this one. Is there such a case?
Okay, thank you, Godwin. So the energy with which you asked that particular question says a lot. But I want to say everything is really case by case basis, really. And I wouldn't want to say there are particular cases where there shouldn't be granting of bail. I really think every case should be carried the way it should be carried and should be worked upon the way it should really be worked upon. So I wouldn't want to, hold on to a particular stand and say, but for this case, there should not be granting of bail, because I want to strongly still uphold to the provisions of Article 23. So I wouldn't want to make a clear response to that.
Okay, thank you. And then as a law student, someone studying the law, you've seen how many times our constitution has been amended, so that, oh, this is on political grounds. Do you think this too is a political amendment, the proposal? And why would
it was breaking, so I would love you to repeat that. I didn't get it clearly.
I said, as a law student, I believe you've followed the couple of amendments you've had over the last maybe a decade or so, starting with the 2005 removal of term limits. We've had one of age limit. We've had a couple of others. These amendments tend to take a very, very political undertone. They become political in nature. And this seems to also take that stand. We've seen very many members of the ruling party pushing for it. So I want to understand from your own analysis, why do you think this bail issue has taken a very, very political shift and is not a bipartisan issue?
All right. So I really think every particular sector has been politicized. Every way of life has literally been politicized. And I want to say that is because of the fact that we have been robbed of our power to resources and our political power and power of voice, really. And by the time you actually do not have all those three forms of power as a person or as a woman or as a leader in your particular capacity, then literally the other personality or the group of people that has all of that has been robbed from you is definitely going to take advantage. And I think that is the main reason as to why we are everything that keeps coming, every particular amendment that government, brings before us, really at the end of at the start of the day, not even end of the day, but at the start of the day, does seem like that is a great detriment to all the Ugandans that will be affected with time. So I really think the fact that we do not have power over particular things is the main reason as to why all that is being brought before us in terms of the laws that are being amended actually come from a political arm or a political wing and not really a human or a communal or societal or a necessity kind of a view. Yeah.
Joyce, you said that we refer to you as Joyce and we forget about you being a member of the Forum for Democratic Change, but you're going to excuse me for now because I'm going to do that. So we know that the numerical strength of the ruling party, the National Resistance Movement in Parliament, they have more MPs than all the opposition MPs and the independent MPs combined, and they will still be left with over 100 MPs plus. So is there any hope that such an amendment, this one that has taken a political nature, we've seen the previous amendments, once they take a political nature, there's a way they sail through in the House because the NRM has the numerical strength. Is there any way that Ugandans can stop this particular amendment from being passed, given the numerical strength and the weakness of the opposition parties like F.D.C, National Unity Platform, and all the others?
Thank you. Of course, we've seen a lot of things that happen in Parliament. And even when you don't discuss numerical strengths, sometimes you look at the opposition politicians we have getting compromised on key issues as well. And then they all end up to the other side where they're supposed to oppose. We've seen that in votings for the speakership and other races and on other issues, taxation and so on. Someone stands up and ridiculously opposes even the position of their political party on the floor. So we as a party and as a country do not necessarily have to rely on the numerical strength of opposition in Parliament to defend ourselves. And that's why as a party we've taken this struggle out to the people. We go out and speak to the people and tell them this is your country, and speak to young people and tell them this is your country, this is the issue on table, and this is not good for you. So stand up and say something. So until the people themselves win this battle, we shall still be here. And I appreciate the fact that several civil society organizations like the Center for Constitutional Governance are coming up and engaging young people and different stakeholders in these discussions and this sensitization, because that is the only way we have to go. even if we went back to do even if we went to a memorandum right now, I can assure you this regime will manipulate it, because they will first start by manipulating the mind. They will go to Masaka, kill people. Then they ask people, Masaka, you people have been killing you. Do you want them to get bail? Then the people of Masaka say, no, we don't want that. So, yes.
Joyce, when you make a serious allegation that the state will go to massacre and kill people, that is something I would want to interrogate. Do you have any evidence that the state killed people in massacre?
The state is responsible for security.
Yes.
And this happened in 2018, 2019, and suddenly stopped, and they didn't tell us anything about it. And recently, when it started again, they implicated their former CMI agent, that is General Kaka Bajenda, for being behind the massacre murders. And they've always implicated each other in their security investigation. So until they produce for us that person who killed the people in 2018 and stopped and resumed in 2021, they are absolutely responsible.
Okay. So you can continue submission. You can wind up your submission and then we move to Sheila.
Yeah, so the whole thing is acted as a kind of a movie. It starts, and that is what makes it fully politicized, because the demand did not start from the people; it started from the politicians. Area, and suddenly 2 politicians are arrested and accused of killing them. And suddenly another politician is demanding that no murderer should be given bail. So it makes the whole system politicized. And therefore, in this particular case, it is incumbent upon us, those of us who have the goodwill for this country and who hold the human rights will at heart, to fight the vice and make sure that we rally people behind pushing for the right things to happen. Otherwise, if we start making it a partisan issue, we may not take it further. We first need to make it unpartisan, because if you make it an F.D.C, NRM, government numerical strength issue, we shall lose the battle. It is not an F.D.C, NRM thing. It shouldn't be a NUP F.D.C, NRM thing. It shouldn't be a political party thing or a political thing. It should be a Ugandan thing. And that's why I have been once in a while saying, maybe just look at me as an activist for now, as a human rights activist, because we need everyone on board to champion this cause.
Thank you. Let's wind up this issue now with Fancy. You've had how elaborate and very detailed Joyce has been in a submission, even making some very, very serious and damning allegations here and there. But we shall leave it at that. Now, so I want to hear from you when you know that I know, and Joyce does know, that the opposition stands no chance of opposing this in the August House, our parliament. So a student like you, a feminist like you, a human rights activist like you, that wants this provision to stay in the Constitution, what are you left out with doing? What can you do? What can the people out there in the community who are going to listen to you do? How best do you think they can contribute to opposing this amendment if they, like you, feel like it should be opposed?
So what I feel as a student, or as whatever capacity I am in, I would really do is be a part of conversations as this. And I think being a part of conversations as this is like in the channel towards what the opposition or what government will get to know, because I may not have all the capacity to write to government or to sit the Prime Minister and speak to her about it in line with the speech she made on Sunday in church. And so I think as a student, or as whatever capacity I'm in, the best thing I would have right now, which is the power to be a part of conversations that are geared towards understanding this reform that is being, slapped into our face, or understanding the benefits from the government's point of view. And I think at the end of the day, every other community person will dare to make a choice on their own after they've actually understood what this means to them now. This means to their person right now, their person who might be behind bars, or who will be behind bars some other time. And so I think for me, the best thing I have been doing ever since we got to hear of this is being a part of engagements that actually give us a way towards finding out at the end of the day how far government wants to go with this, and how we can contribute as a civil society space or as non-state actors. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, let's turn to the other topic we're supposed to talk about, and that is terrorism. So just how scared does the word terrorism sound in your ears when you hear that there is terrorism, or when you hear that the government has issued a terror threat? What comes to your mind? And again, I'm going to pick it from you, Sheila.
So I want to say I am forever scared, even now more than ever. But I want to draw this from a perspective that security has never really been guaranteed for me as a young woman in this country. Because if I still feel that I do not need to take a particular route, which could be a route to a shop, could be a route to the hospital, or could be a route really to a particular space, then there is no sense of security for me. And if I really think that security is only when I see an askari at the gate, or when I see a policeman with a gun, or simply see a policeman or an army man, then that is not security. So the worry or the scary aspect has been living with me, and I'm sure with other young women. And I want to say now more than ever that we've had these 3 cases of blasts in a week is actually terrifying as a threat to any young woman who would want to be in employment in that particular sector, that as a waiter, as a waitress. So I really think I have been scared for a long time, and even now I'm still scared. Yes.
Joyce, is that the same feeling you get?
Of course, and most so the fact that for some good years, women have been a target in the murders and the terrorism. So you consistently live in fear, and sometimes it is even much confusing when you don't know who is exactly killing you, who is the terrorist. You saw in the past it was easier a bit to the mind when someone says Al-Shabaab is killing people, and probably you have to protect yourself against Al-Shabaab. Oh, when there was Konyi in northern Uganda, and everyone is talking there is Konyi in northern Uganda. But now, in the situation of Uganda, now you don't know who the terrorist is. The terrorist could be a government agency. The terrorist is here ADF. The terrorist is the Al-Shabaab. The terrorist is someone whom government does not know, and we are having. And our security department gets this. I think in this financial, they're getting the second highest allocation in the budget, but we don't know who the terrorists are. That is the most scary part. It is easier when you know that it is Al-Shabaab going to attack Kampala. When you don't know that, who exactly is the terrorist? It will be the person, the guy at the gate who is supposed to protect you. It could be the terrorist. It could be that guy who is supposed to investigate the person who is killing you. It could be the terrorist. So it makes the whole situation 100 times more scary than it was in the recent past.
Okay. As someone that belongs to a political party, we've seen members of the opposition charged with some of those damning accusations, such as terrorism. We know that Ingrid the former Nakawa MP, Kabaziguruka, among others, have before faced charges of terrorism. So how do these two things play out? When you hear that there is actual terrorism, people are being blown up in buses and dying, people are being blown up at a spot somewhere in Komamboga and they're dying, and then you relate that to the fact that sometimes government accuses the members of the opposition of engaging in terrorism. How do these things relate to you as a member of the opposition?
Well, that is where the problem starts from, that the government starts playing with life. You know that murder is a very serious offense, or let me say rape is a very serious offense. And then for you just start accusing any person in the village for raping your daughter, when your daughter has actually not been raped at all. The next time she's actually raped, you will not be taken seriously. And when people hear that the other man's daughter has again been raped, that man is just mad. It's always like that. So because government has trivialized terrorism and treason and so on, it has made the situation worse. They arrest an innocent Sejirinya, torture him around, and accuse him of being a terrorist or a murderer or what. Then next time there is serious security scare, people don't take it seriously. Because yes, they were accused and they were never convicted. And even when they were accused, it was clear to every person's mind that this is just a political accusation. It is more or less like a political game. So we have a system that has played games with serious things and made the serious things look unserious. Yet security is a fundamental issue that we have to look at whenever we are making decisions and whenever we are convicting people. So, of course, when you combine it with the fact that there is move to scrap bail, then you look back and say, there was Mike, I was in Ruka, there was Ingrid there. What is going to happen this time? Are they trying to get another Mike and Ingrid and deny them bail? Because those two were innocent according to the judgments. That is if the cases have all been disposed. Some of the cases take 5 years, 6 years, 8 years, and then on their own, without even summoning the accused, they dispose the cases. You've seen the cases of treason on Dr. F.D.C and how it suddenly got dismissed without him being notified. So that level of trivializing serious issues by this regime is really costing us, and they do it just for political survival, which is unfortunate.
Okay, Sheila, now let's turn to you. How best would you advise the government to deal with such a threat as terrorism? You don't want the government to remove bail, even for terror suspects, yet you want peace, you want security. You say that you get freaked out when there's a terror threat. So how best would you advise, if you are in charge of these things, what would you do differently?
All right, so if I was in charge, God willing, sometime I will be in charge. But what I think needs to be done is we need to redefine what security actually means. And I think redefining what security means will give more responsibility to not only the security personnel, police and army and security firms, but also to literally everyone in community. I really think redefining will enable people to know, for example, if let me give you a picture of, you know, how we have Umeme and it works with a couple of companies in relation to electricity, and they keep coming to people's homes. But then if this Umeme person comes in, or anyone from that particular farm comes in and they are checking, and then they just get into my gate and they're like, I want to check your meter, or I want to do this, without them actually identifying who they are, using their IDs, work IDs or anything of the sort, then I think that's where we need to come. That is where we need to start from. We need to help people understand that that is an element of security, that you need to question that that electrician, or they need to identify themselves before you. And I think that's in relation to like what Joyce said, because if I may not know who the terrorist is, it could be just this person who keeps coming in into my purpose or something of the sort. So I think redefining what security is and who is actually responsible, and in that sense we'll be able to know that we all are ideally responsible for security, will help us curb the elements of terrorism that will happen, you know, on a scale in a week, just like we had a week before. So that would be the first step that government or any other player in this problem that we are facing should be able to take up.
And how can individuals like yourself help the government? Because the government says that this is not something that we're going to handle alone. We need the public. We need everybody on board. So what role can citizens play to ensure that they are safer despite this great threat of terrorism?
I really think citizens, because we are a couple of citizens and we all hold different capacities and play different roles. So I really think everyone should use their role in their capacity, if they can, to always be a part of conversations towards security. Because if we have, for example, the gentleman that, you know, clearly was telling everyone on television, as we saw at the Komamboga blast that particular night, and describing how everything happened, that's the kind of responsibility everyone should ideally take up, and not want to hide information. So when government calls upon people who have particular information, then whoever has particular information should be willing to share. And I think though we, you know, all have a responsibility to play, I think government should fasten its belt towards creating a more accountable, a more responsible, firstly, and then accountable society, in the sense that young people that are getting into helping terrorists or being a part of these terrorist groups are because of the so many unfortunate conditions they're going through. So even as we are able, a few people are able to be a part to help government curb or merge these things up, government also needs to play its role faster to helping people actually live a responsible life.
Let's now hear in from Joyce. Joyce, the threat of terrorism first came from, we know it came from the British government. They warned that there was going to be a terror threat. And our government seemed not to have acted upon that, or seemed to have ignored it. Do you think this was a case of an oversight on government, or it was a case of negligence, or it's just a case of our government doing another thing wrong after they've done so many things wrong already?
For me, I think it is just a clear indication that the priorities of government has shifted to something else, and we are still living in denial that they are looking after us. Like, you wake up every morning believing that they are securing your future, when in actual sense it is you supposed to be securing it. Because why would someone who has allocated the second largest share to security ignore a terror threat? Why? Because by the time they did that allocation, it means they were security was a serious issue, and they wanted to give it their best. We have a duplication of roles in the security system. There are so many security agencies, and they also don't have proper coordination. So I think that is where another problem is, that every security agency is trying to either compete with the other, or thinking the other one is doing what they are supposed to do. So that leaves another gap. Okay. You have CMI here, you have ISO, you have, I don't know, ISO, you have police, you have UPDF, you have, with most of them have all adopted political roles. They are more into politics than into security. So it leaves a gap in the real security sector. And it is something that needs to be worked upon. Of course, it almost falls on a deaf ear whenever we speak these things, because they look at you when you're talking, they say, oh, who is that speaking? Where are they from? Those people of opposition are like that. But we have to take it serious, because we've attracted so many security, should I call it risks as a country by participating in different areas. Where when there is war in Somalia, you take your troops there. So you become a target for the other terrorist organization. When the Taliban need refuge, you're there. When they want people to go and defend, I don't know, we become warmongers in Africa as well. So we've attracted a lot of insecurity to take security threats for granted. So I think there is something that was lacking on that, and that is still lacking, that needs to be strengthened, and that we as a country need to make noise about it. Otherwise, if we just sit here and assume that there is a certain agency that is taking their job seriously to secure us, we are not being realistic with ourselves.
Okay, I want to ask you something before you go off. You mentioned the fact that government of Uganda has troops on the ground. It has soldiers in Somalia, it has soldiers in Central African Republic, it has gone to several of these countries trying to bring peace and stability. And when Afghanistan took back, Afghanistan was taken back by the Taliban, the government offered a safe refuge for some of the refugees. We are told that for a short time as they transit and proceed elsewhere. So when you say that this is part of the problem, isn't that actually part of the solution? Because the government's argument is that if they're terrorists in Somalia, they can reach anywhere and bomb anyone. So what we are going to do, we are going to go to Somalia and nip it in the bud, stop them in their tracks and ensure that they don't get to Uganda, they don't get to Kenya, they don't get to the DRC. In so doing, the idea is that they are promoting stability by disseminating the terror tales, the terrorist cells right in Somalia where they could have caused problem for everyone. Don't you think that that actually makes a lot of sense?
It makes a lot of sense in both directions, because ideally what that means is that we are now part of the fight. Okay, your neighbor was fighting with his wife. You went there to defend one of them. You took side, so assuming you went and sided with his wife. Now you and his wife are both enemies now. So when he's fighting, he's going to be attacking both of you. So by the fact that we've shown presence in this, your intention of going there to stop the fight could have been to resolve the issue of domestic violence against women and promote peace in that family. But by so doing, you have attracted a problem on your side. So you have to make sure that you defend yourself as much as you defend the lady that you went to rescue. So we have to make sure, we have to know that as a country, by going to defend whoever we went to defend out there, we have also become part of the enemies of the people we are defending them against, and that increases our security risk as a country. By default, it does. When you go to Somalia, by default, you are part of the enemies of the Al-Shabaab. When you go to Afghanistan, you're part of the enemies. So we need to, every time we go out there, we need to know that now we have, if we're in one country and we go to another, we now know we have another set. And sometimes not just for that specific, because all these terrorist organizations have different wings, they have different sponsors, they have different people who are trying to also push their agenda forward. So the security risk becomes that broad, and you need a very competent team to be able to analyze that and put the necessary security defense systems in place. Because it is not true that once you're there, it means it's like you've created a wall, like a gateway. I'm sorry, I used the word that someone used before. It doesn't mean that now you've created a wall, that risk is not going to spread back to your country. No. These people will take flights, these people will have different ways of coordinating their groups all over the world, and therefore it exposes us as a country. So it is a risk that we put our country in whenever we go to defend others. So we have to decide, do we go to the neighbor's home to stop the conflict and also become part of it until we resolve it? or do we remain at home and let them fight? So whereas it is good to always defend others, we also have to know that when we go to defend them, we have to be prepared to defend ourselves together with them.
Before Uganda sent troops to Somalia in 2007, women were being raped, children were being killed, and a lot untold suffering was being meted in that country by the Al-Shabaab. When the Taliban took over Afghanistan a few weeks back, we knew that there was going to be trouble for women there. There was going to be trouble for the children. There was going to be so much bloodshed, and indeed there was a lot of punishing of those that had collaborated with the Americans while they were there, or were thought to be informers, or even some simply stopped based on the quote-unquote Islamic law, saying that girls can't go to school and all these other things. Those were fears, and some of them have come to pass. So is it wrong for Ugandan government to take a risk and say, if those girls are going to suffer, let's bring them here. If those women are going to suffer, let's bring them here. Is it on a cost-benefit analysis scale? Is it a risk worth taking, given that there could be retaliation from either the Taliban or from Al-Shabaab? To do that, or rather, it's better to say, mind your business, let's keep our business. If women are killed there, that's none of our business. If you are the one in charge of government, which stand would you take?
Thank you, Godwin. So I beg not to turn on my video for this, but just for a moment. I hope that's really okay.
That's okay.
All right, thank you. So I really think Uganda as a country is a part of a number of international spaces, or signed and ratified a number of commitments that it will be working towards. And the question, so that is the first question that I would be raising. And then the second question in terms of the risks, I think even as we have signed and are committed to helping out when there is a need, or helping out because we have signed and ratified those particular conventions and commitments, I think we have lost it in that because one is signing and then two is actually working towards those commitments. And I think as a country, we haven't reviewed our capacity enough towards implementing what we actually signed, or towards giving in and supporting when we can. Because if we still have a struggling nation that is facing pretty much similar to what is being faced by the countries that we want to help, those in Afghanistan or those in Somalia or those, closest, DRC, I think we are working not towards a right direction immediately. And so the question on whether we're actually taking a preferred risk is something I would say we are not taking a preferred risk. We are capable, but not to the extent that we actually can always be in support, or taking girls and for girls to come and study here, or taking a number of refugees. And yet our state as a country, we still have elements that are really worrying, particularly for even the citizens of this country, and not even for the refugees or for whoever is it that we are taking. So I think we are working blindly as a country to be able to help other nations immediately. And I think that should be something that should be reviewed even as we help. Are we actually capable of helping that good number of people, or helping any time as we have been helping?
Okay, that sounds good. We should help while taking all the precaution to ensure that doesn't get out of hand. So I want to turn now still to you, Sheila. Sheila, the issue of opposition people being implicated for terrorism. Do you fear that the government stretches this too far? Yeah, like we talked about the issue of bail. So when the government makes accusations that opposition people are engaged in acts of terrorism, do you think there's any truth to this, or we're just seeing the usual Ugandan politics at play?
There is a mixture from my point of view. There is the usual Ugandan politics game in place, but then there's also a truth to it, a truth not to the fact that these people could actually be the terrorists, but a truth in a different sense. So I really want to say government to a particular extent has actually failed to manage through the concept of multi-partyism, having a number of parties and having a democracy with a number of parties. And that is why we actually find that there is the usual Ugandan political party game in play. Because if all this was managed and there was every party actually, I know, it's healthy to have an opposition in place. It's healthy to have a government that brings it and an opposition says no to it. It's pretty healthy politics. But then it is not healthy when a country has failed, the people of a country always feel attacked by the government when the government lays this before them. It is very unusual, and it should be something that the government shouldn't be sleeping about every single day and continue, to effecting a particular something, and yet the citizens feel detrimented because of these particular elements that the country is bringing. So the question on having a particular number of the opposition being accused or being named as the terrorists towards what's happening in the country, I think comes from an unfair point of view, because our government has actually failed to uphold the conversation that the opposition brings forward on the floor of parliament or in any particular engagement. Yeah.
Thank you. Joyce, now I want to get your own view on how you best would handle the issue of terrorism if you were in charge of the government of this country.
Yes, I'm honored to think like a judge at this particular moment. Maybe before I submit on that, I wanted to add something to what Sheila mentioned about the issue of us troops to defend other countries and without looking back home. When the massacre killing ongoing, I asked the question, why are we very good in Somalia? Why are we very good in Congo? Why are we very good everywhere else? But one district, one constituency in massacre has defeated us. Why? Do we really have the troops? Why should we send troops out and fail to send the same troops to massacre? Where were the troops? So it makes you realize that the reason why we are out today is actually not to promote peace. Maybe there is something else that we are hanging on out there. Because if it was the case, then that peace should have started from home. But before we go anywhere else, we have to make sure no one is dying in Uganda on terrorism-related issues, on insecurity-related issues before going out there to protect other people. But you can't be having very successful troops in Somalia, and then you cannot manage one district in your country. And you keep wailing about it on media every day. You say, today they have killed that. Today, it doesn't make sense. So back to the point, if I were a judge in this country, presented to the terrorism case, I would follow the constitution and handle it on a case-to-case basis. Because of the nature of the country that I am working as a judge, the country, that is, I'm assuming I am a judge today in Uganda of today. The Uganda of today is a Uganda where when someone annoys another person, they can either be called a terrorist, they can be charged of treason, they can be charged of rape, they can be charged of any unthinkable thing just to hold them in prison. So I would analyze all those factors, and based on those factors, decide whether or not to grant bail to a terrorist suspect or not. The other thing is the level of investigation by the police and DPP and other agencies that are supposed to support the judiciary. how much evidence is there on table for me to rely on. If there is clearly no evidence, because there are people who they first even take you to jail, to prison, then they look for a case to put. Then after 1 week, 2 weeks of your disappearance, or 3, or even sometimes a month, when no one has heard about you, no one has seen you anywhere, they now come up with a case and then they charge you. So I would look at all those factors and decide, because ideally there is no way a serious suspect of terrorism who is close to conviction can be held for days and months. Then someone tries to think about what to charge them. So I would put all those into consideration. However, also, being a judge in this country, the way it is now, is a risk, because someone else wants to run your office. You're not supposed to run it according to the law that you studied and that has been put available for you to make judgment. So as a judge in this country, in this status, I would be very conscious about my personal security when it comes to issues of terrorism, because sometimes the people behind the terrorism are among the people who are supposed to protect you as a judge. Okay, so you're going to cling on the right terrorist suspect who made a petrol bomb, only to realize that the terrorist suspect is being protected by the other organization that is supposed to be providing security to the judicial system. So in that regard, I would make sure I analyze the risk base of every case that I am handling in regards to terrorism, because as I have said, that is the situation of terrorism in Uganda. Some terrorists are external from those countries that we've mentioned earlier. Some are internal, and some are actually related to the security agencies that are supposed to provide security. And some are falsified, either people within the government who have fallen out with the system, want to be implicated, or people within the opposition who are threatening government want to be implicated. So I would take my time to study every case as it comes.
Thank you very much. We are going to now make our concluding remarks. So I'll begin with Sheila and then end with Joyce.
Yes, I want to say that everyone in their particular capacity, or every sector or every group, shouldn't be considered as a homogeneous one. If we want at the end of the day to be able to hold on to a terrorist organization or a terrorist group, or every irregularity that comes with security or keeping people safe, because we already know for a fact that one is, if young people are considered as this particular group and cannot be a part of a conversation towards bail, towards security, or towards development, or towards a particular something, then they are going to think of ways of doing things in a different way, and that will lead them to being a part of these unfortunate organizations that we see, local or international, or either way. So I really think when a conversation is happening, when there is a decision that is being made, every particular group can be a part of that conversation. It could be a young woman, it could be a youth, it could be a student carrying out a particular subject on a humanitarian law, for instance. So that should be the arm that we need to take, because terrorism is something that we can manage through as a country. We are capable. I really think we are simply being lazy towards understanding or towards holding on to this thing and making sure that we do not face it again as a country. So all the stakeholders in charge are simply not making use of the strength that is in place, strength right from the young people themselves, and right from every particular group, right from non-state actors as well, civil society spaces that are passionate towards security, spaces that are passionate towards elements of bail, spaces that are passionate towards human rights defending. And so consideration of everyone in anything that is being made, especially things that are being made by the government, should be something that should continuously be upheld in every decision making that is happening from today and on forwards.
Okay, thank you. Your conclusion, Joyce?
Thank you. I think let me turn on my video as I conclude, because I might be a stranger in the show forever. My conclusion on this matter is, number one, I will first start from a high note to thank the Center for Constitutional Governance for bringing us on board, for considering this, and for consistently engaging us on issues that are affecting the country, and implore us to scale out, go out and speak to every category of people. Talk to those that are not educated, talk to those that are educated. Let every Ugandan understand the stake of these laws that are being put across, and on whose favor these laws should be. Because sometimes when we discuss it from the top here, it looks like it is a political party affair. One political party is trying to challenge the other. Or sometimes it looks like it is some kind of the educated people's issues, and yet it is at the end of the day going to strangle everyone on the neck. So we need to do that reaching out. We need to go back to the local councils. We need to discuss with those youth from the grassroots, and make sure that we empower them to ask the same questions that we ask, the hard questions of why are we putting this there, on whose interest are you doing it, so that we can move the agenda to the next level. Because like I mentioned earlier, we are not going to just win this battle in one boardroom meeting, or by writing just a proposal, or by taking it to the floor of parliament. We need to put everyone on board. We also need to document our position as young people and have it very clear. In one of the discussions we've held on this platform was to discuss about where the youth should be and what they should do to move the agenda of the country forward. We have representatives in parliament. We never hold them accountable. We always point at the same old people whom we complain about. But what are our youth doing? What are we doing with them? So we need to have a documented position. And I will appreciate further if the Center for Constitutional Governance, through of course parties like F.D.C and others, sit down and have a position of Uganda on issues like bail, on issues like taxation, and on other related issues, and on issues pertaining security. That is how I want to close it for now, unless there is any specific question that I'm supposed to go further and tackle.
No, there's no such question. Thank you very much. So
All
thank
right,
you very
much.
much.
Too.
The ladies, today it was a ladies thing. I was the only guy here. And I'm happy that I hosted this panel. You guys made very impressive submissions. Thank you for our viewers. We're also glad to have you listening in and participating in this discussion. You can always leave your comment in the comment section, and we ensure that we deal on that. Next week, we shall have another show. But suffice to say, I'll be moved to another show, so I'll not host the community show next week. Another surprise, wait for who will be your next host. Thank you very much. It's been a great journey that I've had with you guys, and I wish you all the best. May we all put our feet forward. May we all give this country our best, and hope that our small efforts will lead to the betterment of this country, for God and my country. Thank you very much.